Dumelang Sanbonani. Good evening, South Africa. Welcome to Expressions, SABC biggest #1 current affairs show. This is definitely the place for you to air your views. I'm your host, Jacqueline Mapala.
I'm your host, Mkolisiwa Gomasango. Now we're coming to you live from our headquarters in Auckland Park, Johannesburg. We tackle the issue of tertiary funding. We put the spotlight firmly on NSFAS, the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. Our poll question this evening, we ask, is NSFAS failing the needy students?
That's a very important question because thousands of poor students depend on NSFAS to provide financial support for their studies at institutions of higher learning. Now, NSFAS is a government scheme set up to help young people pay for the tuition at any of the public universities and public FET colleges in the country. However, NSFAS has been struggling to ensure a smooth rollout of free higher education for the needy. Many students have been complaining about delays in payments as well as difficulty in applying for funding.
Whoa, Jackie, and as Expressions, we took to the streets to find out what young people are saying about the issue. Do take a look at this.
So we're in the streets of Dobsonville. So to those who are funded by NSFAS, I want to know, was the application easy?
I register. I had to wait for it before I register. Give unblock system.
NSFAS, it takes time to reply and everything. So like this thing it's difficult for stress. So I think it's quite difficult for all funding NSFAS.
Let's talk about #FeesMustFall movement. Nina, do you think yele yasiza ekuthenini kuzwakala ukuthi abafundi badinga mhlawumbe imfundo yamahala?
Well, I think I have go because of if in a never increase your child their fees. And again, I don't increase because okay, I cannot child so I'm going to stay home.
Can you say ukuthi NSFAS so reliable because kunabanye abafundi abaqedile esikoleni noma mhlawumbe benza second year wabo but bangakatholi ama results wabo?
I only applied for NSFAS last year and I never had problems with their payout or anything. I'll apply again this semester and see about what happens with them. But I've heard a lot of students complain about NSFAS.
They want things to come to themselves. They want to take say NSFAS.
Unayo yini imali yokuregister?
Because of then I want to further my studies. Mama made the sacrifices because I just can't stay at home.
So ningathini nani nonke kubo bonke labantwana bahlele emakhaya just because abanayo imali yokuregister?
So try and apply for them and see where you can go with it.
If you know like you're not financially stable, then you can come to a TVET college and they can hook you up with everything.
Young people making their concerns heard in that insert. But to help me unpack this issue a little bit further, I'm joined in studio by Dr. Randall Carolison, who is a NSFAS administrator, so a very important person to have in studio tonight. And I'm also joined by Mr. Avela how do I say it? Mjajubalo.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. I need to get my Xhosa right, eh?
Yeah.
I need to get my Xhosa intact. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. And of course, I never do this by myself. If you're wondering what's happened to my co-host, Mkolisi, he's on our social media corner and he's going to be bringing some of your insight and perspective on this important discussion we're having on the show. So, I mean, we heard some of the concerns that kind of came through. And Randa, maybe let me start with you. I mean, last year you were appointed by the minister to literally fix this major problem that we're seeing with NSFAS. And I just want to understand, I mean, the year is coming to a close. Do you understand what is at the heart of the problem? But I think most importantly, do you have a solution for it?
So yes, I think it's very important that we get some perspective. So my terms of reference was first to fix the backlog, 2018-2017 backlog, which I would say very successfully fixed. Large amounts of monies were paid out and backlogs were caught up with. And then also to prepare for 2019. Now, I know statistics do not count everybody, but it's useful to know that this is probably the best that we've ever been prepared for an application season. So to give some statistics, we've approved, of the 400,000, we've approved 300,000 for funding. And the minute they register at university, the funding becomes effectively. In fact, they will get an upfront payment. Now, the question is what happens to the other 100,000? It's good to talk about the 300,000, but there are real cases there under other 100,000. So part of that other 100,000 is people that have declared income that do not match when we check with other parties, with credit bureaus. So a person might be clearing 100,000 income and then we find that he's earning R1 million. So that clearly does not qualify because I've got to work within the rules and guidelines. The second category of students in that 100,000 are the ones with outstanding documents or students that have not provided us with the consent form to check the credit status. I can't just go and check it. I need a consent form. And there we need to work hard. Now, we've been spending the past 2 or 3 months extremely hard to get those students to come forward and then produce the documents. So we have now arrangement with the universities that when the students walk in, they need to assist us to get the necessary documents so that we can do the further approval. That's on the one side. On the other side, there's massive walk-ins at the TVET colleges. And those people that are going to the TVET colleges to register are now allowed actually to also complete their NSFAS application. So that will feed into the system. So where we funded 690,000 students in 2018 with the backlog that we caught up, we're going to be funding close to 800,000 students this year. So it's a massive improvement, but yes, there are people that are aggrieved because they were disallowed.
Look, Avila, you're on the ground. You understand the grievances of students. I mean, as much as we're talking about numbers, you understand the reality that students are going through. I just want to find out, as SASCO, what are you doing to practically assist students who fall within the 100,000, bracket that Randall was speaking about? But I think most importantly, students who also kind of fall through the cracks.
True. Look, firstly, let me acknowledge that there has been progress. Because when last year we have said that there is a problem with administration within NSFAS in terms of processing applications, in terms of ensuring that as we begin the year, everybody is covered in terms of funding. But now we want to acknowledge first that there's been improvement because we have met with NSFAS. We have said that, look, there are many students who might not have been applied due to the fact that they are coming from villages. So please ensure that those students are accommodated as in when they come to the Institute of Higher Learning. So we are, of course, we have agreed, but in terms of ensuring that that happens, we have stations across the country. Our branches and activists are ensuring that students do register, they do get assistance in terms of if they did not apply for NSFAS and they are rejected by some institutions, they therefore come to our tables. We do assist them in terms of applying, in terms of ensuring that they are funded. But of course, there are reactionary institutions, particularly the University of Johannesburg, wherein they reject students and they turn them away and also threaten them that their spaces will be taken if they don't pay. And we are saying that clearly that University of Johannesburg must be ready for students' confrontation because we can't tolerate a situation whereby students are turned away on the basis of finances and on the basis that these students, they are within the category, but they do not apply with NSFAS. Now, if we have an agreement together with the department and NSFAS that if students are academically qualifying, so they must be given funding. So we can't tolerate situations like the University of Johannesburg. But so far, many institutions are assisting students to register. So far, the reports are only DUT and the University of Johannesburg that request funding to students.
You know, it's interesting, as I'm listening to Avila, it seems that there might be a little bit of miscommunication, because on the one hand, you did mention that right now you want to deal with the issue of walk-ins, and you're saying that, you know, it's something that you sort of want to phase out. But here you mentioned something really important around rural students who don't have access to online facilities and computers and so forth. So again, how do we mitigate that? Because it seems like we're not necessarily talking to each other, or there needs to be, it seems like we're crossing our wires somewhere. Randall, so how do we alleviate that? So,
of course, beginning of, in December, we had to shut down our SMS campaign because there were people trying to misinform and sabotage our systems. So that was a bit of a damper. But we are directing students to the My NSFAS portal where they get their personal information and they can get their status. Now, unfortunately, the terms that exist with us when we say reject is quite a harsh term, you see. And so I've asked my people to use better terms, to say that you were unsuccessful and this is the exact reason why you're unsuccessful. And there are some very compelling reasons. Every day we convert students to approved based on evidence that they give us. And one example, so you could have, for instance, earned R1 million last year, but you lost your job in the meanwhile, and therefore your household circumstances changed. Now, we don't know that, and we expect students to send that information through to us, and we've got a special portal called appeals.nsfas.org.za. People might get divorced and their incomes might change. Their SASA statuses might change. So there's a whole host of these things that we need to encourage students to not just sit back and say, well, I wasn't successful, but to put forward an argument so that we can fund them and get them into the system.
Randall, we do like, our show is a show where young people do engage with us. And we did get a couple of comments, a couple of tweets and Facebook posts where they were saying that it seems like on the side of NEFSIS, you guys are getting it wrong. Because the student will say, no, I've provided you guys with the proper documentation. My parents qualify in terms of their salary bracket, but for some odd reason, I get rejected. So again, and maybe let me bring it back to you here, Avella, to say that it's not just the students who are not doing what they're supposed to do. They're generally problems. And again, the young people who are watching right now, how do we get to a place where young students can start the year smoothly? They have their textbooks, they have access to accommodation, and they're not denied access?
Look, we have been saying on the ground that, look, students must not get their book allowances during Christmas time and be questioned about the academic progress, because book allowance is part of a critical component of academic success. So students, as in when they register, they must get their allowances. As in they register, they must get their book accommodation and transport allowances, particularly students in the TVET sector, because it's them that suffer the most. They must begin their trimester test as in March, but they get their allowances around June. That's what we've raised. But due to with engagements with the administrator of NSFAS, he has promised that by the first week of February, all allowances will be delivered. We are waiting patiently, and if that does not happen, we will bring fireworks.
Well, you heard it for yourself. Avella said if they don't deliver on their promises, there will definitely be fireworks. So make sure you stay tuned. Mkolisi is on the flip side of this. He's going to be sharing some of your comments on our social media platforms. You're watching Expressions. We'll be back right after this.
It's all interactive and still number one. It's Expressions, your number one youth current affairs show. Now, we talking about tertiary funding. Siyabuza is NSFAS failing needy students. I'm now joined by Ginewe Setai, who is the WITS SRC Treasurer General, as well as Kulu. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us on Expressions.
Thank you for
You're from UJ, right?
Yes.
Linda. Okay, great to have you guys on the show.
Thanks.
Now, you said we have a system that's failing our youth.
Yeah.
Why?
Firstly, because I'll speak on behalf of WITS. Many students still have not signed their NSFAS contracts. There's a delay with payments of allowances. Most of them do not even have deposits to pay for accommodation now. And the major one, it's NSFAS students who have historical debt. And so we don't really understand how does this system work, what is the model, how is it structured, because we're all still trying to understand the new NSFAS. And then another thing, I think our cry has always been the centralization of NSFAS. We are saying, I think it's time it's decentralized, because we can see that with the whole national thing, it's not working.
And of course, we do understand, Doctor, that these are all the problems that you inherited when you came into NSFAS. Now, these are some legitimate problems that are coming through here from the youth to actually come out. These are, NSFAS is an administrative blunder that's constantly happening. How are we dealing with this, essentially?
So, for instance, let me just be very clear. NSFAS funded students don't have to pay deposits. Okay, I've said it over and over again, and I'm saying it now again. Neither for residents or neither for tuition. So institutions should not be charging them for residences. So as I said earlier, part of the big problems, we wiped out the backlog. That is mostly behind us, and now we're preparing for 2019. So when people say NSFAS is failing, it's actually not true, because we are in a much better situation than what we are. But to link to that point, my final part of my terms of reference is to begin a consultation process to re-envision and redesign a new NSFAS, so that it is not just a disbursement agency, but an agency that is geared towards the success of people. Because we can't just throw money at students and they are not geared, and the institutions are not assisting us, or there's not an outcome that is positive. So into the future, the new NSFAS that's going to be envisioned and reimagined is going to be a NSFAS that also makes sure that we have throughput and success rate, and that we produce students with the correct skills to take this country forward. So the re-envisioning, the reimagination of NSFAS going forward, again also the regional distribution of NSFAS offices, taking our staff closer to people is very important, and that will certainly happen as soon as we go over the 2019 hump. I just would like to quickly link to the preparedness of us for paying upfront payments to students in the first week of February. So we'll be transferring funds to the institutions this week. Those institutions that are signing the MOUs with us, they will be getting the money up front and the list of students they need to pay. And we've been sitting with them since December so that they have disbursement channels available to pay that money. And we are not going to pay vouchers, and we are not going to pay through SMSs, because the potential for corruption and fraud is just too big. In fact, we have a forensic on for that now. So there will be cash disbursements. I want to make that clear.
Lindo, I just want to know from you, do you agree with what the doctor is saying there? Do you think it's all going to work?
No, look, my view is that the problem with NSFAS is the autonomy problem of the universities. Because you have a very confused system, as my sister was saying. You have government who's, in our view, is responsible for education of its citizen. Why I don't think NSFAS is relevant, for instance. Why you don't have NSFAS in high school? When we demanded free education, we actually demanded that NSFAS must be abolished, because we do not see the relevance of the scheme in higher education. It actually perpetrates the idea of commodification and commercialization of education, because it comes as a result of the idea that universities are autonomous, are independent, and actually universities are more independent than courts in South Africa. So the real debate that we must be having is that government must own universities. Then government have absolute control of universities, and it does not need a scheme. What is a scheme? A scheme is something like M. It gives money to this person, then it takes money from this person to give this person. We don't need that situation. We need a higher free education in the country, and we need to abolish NSFAS. So if we are going to solve NSFAS, we're going to waste a lot of time. So I think the problems that we're having comes from the fact that we have the kind of free education that we did not fight for. When we fought for free education, we did not imagine NSFAS being part and parcel of free education. We are saying the higher education system must be completely transformed. So we must have a situation like high schools. You have free education in high school. Do you have NSFAS? You don't need NSFAS. Government communicate directly with universities. So this third party Mashonisa called NSFAS is the one that is ripping off students.
All right. Okay. I get your point there, Lindo. And of course, I need to quickly get to the voice note right now. You can, of course, get your opportunity again. Mbugela Pikaya, we always would like for you to speak to us. Of course, this is your expressions for this week. Please roll it.
NSFAS is failing to cover the basic needs of the needy students, and the administrative crisis and the centralized application system at NSFAS is failing students who merely rely on the NSFAS for meals, accommodation, and the institution fees. There seems to be no political will from NSFAS board to fix these issues.
I'm going to give you just quickly 6 seconds quickly.
The administrator of a scheme says that they have 400,000 students, they've solved 300,000 students. I can take you into confidence that if you go to University of Johannesburg today, you will find students who are approved by the NSFAS, but who cannot register because NSFAS perhaps has not communicated with the university.
And this has been echoed in our social media page as well.
That is an issue. You need to abolish NSFAS, and your government needs to own universities. We need a public university, and we need a free education for all, so that you have the rich paying for all for our education, all of us.
Just to add on what
perhaps we'll get on the solutions after this, and of course give the doctor an opportunity to also respond to that, because we've ran out of time, guys. I'm very sorry. And of course, Mugeli Lapukaya, this conversation is of course heated right now, and it continues on the other side. Remember to tell a friend, to phone a friend, that the hottest current affairs show is now showing. Back after this.
Welcome back. You're still watching Expressions here on SABC1, and tonight we're talking about tertiary funding. And the poll question that we're asking you is NSFAS failing the needy students? Now, I'm still with my guests, and of course we have to wrap things up. There are a lot that was touched on, but I think I just want to give you, Randall, an opportunity just to address some of the issues that came across from Kolisi's side around NSFAS being abolished, but I think most importantly, the fact that there is no communication between NSFAS and universities. Please clarify that for us.
So the communication between university and NSFAS, it's not true. All institutions are able to see on a daily basis who's on our system and who's been approved. So that's not true. And in fact, they are using it to register students because they have to check whether they're approved by NSFAS. And if there are hiccups, we need to know about it, but it's working. We tested and it's working. The second thing about the future of NSFAS, I'm not here to speculate about that, but as I said earlier, the whole debate around NSFAS, the re-envisioning, the reimagination of NSFAS will happen, and then therefore the future of NSFAS will be determined in the context of the dynamics of the higher education sector. And that needs to happen. And I believe that debate for that particular day, I just need to get through the 2019.
Okay, so there's a good chance that NSFAS might be abolished. Avel, I want to give you just an opportunity just to wrap everything up for us. There are lots of young people who are watching. And the biggest criticism around NSFAS is the fact that the reason why lots of people think that it's failing is because it's catering to black people. And if it was catering for any other race in this country, then it would work well. What would you like to say to that people are making this a racial and a political issue?
No, that is a very wrong notion, first to begin with, to racialize NSFAS. NSFAS is a scheme that came through the sweat and blood of young people of this country who fought for the liberation and the transformation of our education sector. And it's wrong to racialize it. NSFAS caters for poor and needy students. Now, if you are white, you're Indian and black, if you are poor, you must apply for NSFAS. There are no racial lines around it.
Okay, no problem. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. I think you've definitely given us a lot of food for thought. Thank you for sharing your insights with us. Emzo?
Interesting conversations, Jackie, and I can still, even the comments on social media are still trickling in. So clearly, this conversation has been sparked right here on Expressions. Now, Mugel Lapekaya, we have asked you, of course, if you think that NSFAS is failing the needs of the needy here in South Africa, and this is what you thought. 70% of you thought yes, and 30% thought no.
No confidence there, Emzo. No confidence there.
Of course, I'm just glad that we've had such conversations today. And at the back of that, we also asked for you to send us your video diaries with Ngawufuna's Khulumenga and this is your suggestion for next week.
Hi Expressions, my name is Andile Ngubane. I would like you guys to talk about bogus schools and colleges, as we are seated with many young people who are not aware of fly-by-night schools.
And it's a very nice conversation that we're going to have next week. Remember to stay in touch with us in See Expressions. We thank you very much for joining us. Zoli Sway plays us out this evening in Saligahle.
Adios.
Masia kaya, masia mapanga, sutamili langa, wendomba langa, gitsungiwa ngumama, wendomba langa, masia kaya, masia Sutamili langa, weno malanga, bondalo uwenzani, futsi wenu funani, bega wen uwenzindi, uhlaleleni, bondalo uwenzani, futsi wenu funani, bega wen uwenzindi, uhlaleleni. Bonalo uwenzani futsi wenu funani bega wen uwenzindi